Imagine this. You have been living in the United States for years. You went through the entire process, the paperwork, the interviews, the waiting, the stress, the fees, and you finally got your green card. You built your life here. You bought a home, raised children, built a career, put down roots, and then one day you hear that the government is going back and reviewing old green card cases just like yours, and suddenly you find yourself asking the most terrifying question imaginable. Is my status actually safe? That question is not hypothetical right now. It is real. It is happening. And in the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly what USCIS is doing, why they are doing it, who is at risk, and most importantly, what you need to do right now to protect yourself and your family. Welcome to Global Entry News, the channel dedicated to breaking down the immigration stories that matter most to you, your family, and your future in the United States. If you are new here, please subscribe right now and hit that notification bell, because we cover the legal developments, policy shifts, and breaking news in the immigration world that you absolutely cannot afford to miss. And if you are already part of the Global Entry News community, thank you for being here, and let's get straight into this story, because it is moving fast. USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, has announced a review process targeting old green card approvals, not applications that are pending, not new cases coming in, old approvals, cases that were already decided, cases where people were told, yes, you are approved, here is your green card, welcome to permanent residency. Those cases are now being reopened for scrutiny, and the immigration legal community is sounding the alarm. Today, we are going to unpack everything you need to know. To understand why this is happening and what it actually means, we need to go back and look at the policy environment that has been building around immigration enforcement over the past several years. Under various administrations, USCIS has expanded its authority and its appetite for what is sometimes called administrative review. The power of the agency to go back and look at cases that were previously approved and ask the question, were these approvals correct? Was every piece of evidence properly evaluated? Were there any fraud indicators that were missed? Was there any misrepresentation that slipped through the process? That authority has always existed in some form, but historically it was used sparingly, usually in cases where there was specific and credible evidence of fraud. What is alarming about the current announcement is the scope. This is not a targeted investigation of a specific fraud ring or a specific category of suspicious applications. This is a systematic, broad-based review of old cases. And that scale is what has attorneys and advocates deeply concerned. So what exactly is USCIS looking for when they say they are reviewing old green card cases? According to official statements and legal analysis from immigration attorneys who are closely following this, the review is focused on several categories of concern. The first is misrepresentation, meaning cases where USCIS believes an applicant may have provided false or misleading information on their application, either about their background, their relationship, their employment, or their criminal history. The second category is fraud, which goes beyond simple misrepresentation and includes things like sham marriages entered into solely for immigration benefits, fabricated employment records, falsified documents, and similar deliberate deception. The third area is what attorneys are calling adjudication errors, cases where USCIS itself believes a prior officer may have approved an application that should not have been approved under the rules that were in effect at the time. And it is that third category that is creating the most anxiety in the immigrant community, because it suggests that even people who did everything right could potentially be caught up in this review if their original adjudicating officer made a mistake. Here is something that is critically important to understand, and I want you to pay very close attention to this part. USCIS has a legal authority called revocation of approval. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the agency has the power to revoke a previously approved immigration benefit, including a green card, if it determines that the approval was improper. This is not new law. This power has existed for a long time. But exercising it broadly, systematically, and proactively, reaching back into old cases without a specific fraud trigger, is a significant escalation. Immigration attorneys are already comparing this to other aggressive enforcement periods in American history, and they are warning their clients to take this seriously. Now, and this is crucial, who is actually at risk? Let's be very specific, because the worst thing you can do right now is panic without understanding whether your specific situation falls within the scope of what USCIS is reviewing. The highest risk individuals are those who obtained their green cards through processes that have historically had higher rates of fraud. Certain employment-based categories where documentation was complex and difficult to verify. Family-based petitions in certain time periods where fraud was more prevalent. Cases involving countries or regions that USCIS has flagged for higher rates of document fraud, and cases where the original sponsoring employer or petitioning family member later became the subject of an investigation. If you fall into any of these categories, you should be speaking to a qualified immigration attorney immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. But even if you believe your case was completely clean and straightforward, this review is a reminder of something that every green card holder needs to understand about their status. A green card, as powerful and as life-changing as it is not citizenship. It is permanent residency, and the word permanent can be misleading. Your permanent resident status is conditional on you not having obtained it through fraud, not abandoning your residency by living primarily outside the United States, not committing certain crimes, and not having had disqualifying issues in your background that were not disclosed or were overlooked at the time of your approval. USCIS retains the authority to revisit that status under specific legal circumstances, and right now they appear to be actively exercising that authority. What does a USCIS review actually look like in practice? If your case is selected for review, the first thing that typically happens is that USCIS will issue what is called a Notice of Intent to Revoke, or NOIR. This document will outline the basis for the potential revocation, what evidence or concern has triggered the review of your specific case, and it will give you a period of time to respond. That response window is your opportunity, through your attorney, to provide evidence and legal argument defending your case. It is absolutely essential that you take that notice seriously and that you respond with the strongest possible legal representation you can get. People who ignore these notices or who respond inadequately are far more likely to lose their status than people who engage fully and professionally. I also want to address something that is generating a lot of confusion online right now. The question of whether this review affects people who have already naturalized and become U.S. citizens. This is a nuanced area of law. Generally speaking, once you are a naturalized citizen, your green card is no longer the source of your status, your citizenship is. However, if USCIS or the Department of Justice determines that you obtained your green card through fraud or misrepresentation, they have the authority to pursue what is called denaturalization, the process of stripping someone of citizenship that was obtained unlawfully. The Department of Justice has had a dedicated denaturalization task force for several years now, and while this affects a small number of people compared to the total naturalized population, it is not a theoretical risk. It is a real one, and it flows directly from the same policy posture that is driving the current green card review. For people who are currently in the process of applying for citizenship and who obtained their green card several years ago, the timing of this announcement is particularly concerning. The naturalization process involves USCIS going back through your entire immigration history, including how you obtained your green card. If they find something during that review that raises a question about your original green card approval, your naturalization application could be denied, and you could potentially face action against your green card status as well. Immigration attorneys are advising clients in this situation to have a very thorough legal review of their entire immigration history before filing any naturalization application right now. There is also a broader policy conversation happening in Washington around this review that you need to be aware of. This action does not exist in a vacuum. It is taking place against a backdrop of significantly heightened immigration enforcement, increased data sharing between USCIS and other federal agencies, including DHS and the FBI, expanded use of artificial intelligence and data analytics to flag potential inconsistencies in old immigration records, and a political environment in which both parties, though for different reasons, are paying intense attention to immigration enforcement. The technology piece is particularly important. USCIS has invested heavily in systems that can cross-reference information from multiple databases, tax records, social security records, travel records, law enforcement databases, and flag cases where information provided in an immigration application appears to be inconsistent with information in other government systems. These systems are capable of identifying patterns at a scale that was simply impossible with manual review, and they are now being applied retroactively to old case files. What should you do right now if you are a green card holder and this story has you worried? First, do not panic, but do act. Pull out your green card and your immigration documents. Know exactly when your green card was approved, which category it was approved under, who the petitioner was, and what information was submitted in your application. Second, think honestly about whether there was anything in your application process that was not completely accurate or complete. If there was something, even something that seemed minor at the time, you need to discuss that with an attorney in a confidential, privileged conversation. Third, if you are eligible for naturalization and you have been putting it off, talk to an attorney about whether now is the right time to move forward or whether you should wait until the picture is clearer. And fourth, make sure your current address and contact information are up to date with USCIS, because if they send you a notice and it goes to an old address, the clock on your response window is still ticking whether you receive it or not. The immigration legal community is mobilizing. Organizations like the American Immigration Lawyers Association are monitoring this situation closely and publishing guidance for practitioners and for the public. Legal aid organizations in cities with large immigrant populations are already seeing increased demand for consultations. If you cannot afford a private immigration attorney, there are nonprofit legal organizations in virtually every major metropolitan area that provide free or low-cost immigration legal services. Use them. This is not the moment to try to navigate the system on your own. This story is evolving, and we are going to stay on top of every development as it comes out. At Global Entry News, our commitment is to give you accurate, clear, and actionable information. Not fear, not speculation, but real facts delivered in a way that actually helps you protect yourself and the people you love. The immigration system is complicated, it can be frightening, and it changes fast. That is exactly why this channel exists. We are here to be your guide through every twist and turn. If this video gave you information that you needed to hear, please share it right now. Share it with your family members. Share it in your community groups. Share it with anyone you know who has a green card or is going through the immigration process, because this is information that could genuinely change someone's life. Every share helps us reach more people who need to know what is happening. And if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe to Global Entry News right now. Hit that bell icon so you are notified the moment we upload new coverage. We have more breaking immigration news coming very soon, and you do not want to be the last person to find out. Drop your questions and your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your questions often become the topics of our next videos. Thank you for watching, stay informed, stay prepared, and we will see you in the next one.